Welcome to HVAC Success Secrets Revealed, a show where we interview industry leaders and disruptors, revealing the success secrets to create and unleash the ultimate HVAC business. Now your hosts, Thaddeus and Evan.
And welcome back to another HVAC Success Secrets Revealed with Thaddeus and Evan, where we have good conversations with good people, and any good conversation worth having is worth having drunk. So cheers, gentlemen. Greg, welcome to the show. Appreciate having you on, even though we're drinking coffee today or some lemonade maybe, but appreciate having you on, Greg. For those of you that do not know Greg Fox, he is the co-owner, along with his wife, Melissa, of Fox Family Heating and Air out in the Sacramento Valley area. And they have built a tremendous business out there, staying true to the name of Fox Family and running a family-owned business with core values that really matter. And we've been working with Greg, just managing his website, doing some basic stuff for him, helping out with the vlog that he does through YouTube a little bit and his blog. And I've been wanting to have him on the show since we started working together because I'm in awe of what he's built in his business, both online and his business in Sacramento. So thanks so much for joining us, Greg.
Yeah, it's a real pleasure to be here, man. Thanks.
Yeah, no worries. Glad to do it. And glad we were finally able to, and things were able to slow down at least a little bit that you could breathe there in Sacramento. So why don't we start at the beginning and how you got into HVAC? I know your dad was in it once upon a time. You kind of grew up around it, but then you walked away for a little while and didn't get into it right away, and it came back to it later on in life. So why don't you go ahead and tell the story a little bit, because it's a fun one.
Yeah, that's pretty much right. That's the gist of it. So after I got out of high school, I went to the Air Force, and I was a mechanic. They made me a mechanic in the Air Force. So I've always sort of had that mechanical aptitude to fix things and work with tools and stuff, work with my hands. And I only did one term. In fact, I got out a little bit early, which is something I'm not like hugely proud of, but it's a different story. We can talk about it. But I did get out a little bit early and moved back to Indiana. Kind of got in the bar business for a while. In fact, for like the next 15 years, I was in the bar business, bartending, and then when I turned 35, I kind of just decided I was kind of stale in the bar business, and I just wanted like a real job, and with benefits, and just kind of settle down because I'm married and I don't live that life, So, but I did draw it out for quite a while, and so I just started out at the bottom of this big company around town here, and just started out at $10 an hour with them as an install helper, just doing whatever I could to learn from the ground up. And 5 years later, I knew how to lead installs, do service, and I sold a system. And at that point, I think the company I was working for and just my values in general just didn't mix. They're a machine. They're a money machine. And I never want to be that. Like, I come from humble roots back in Indiana. I'm a Midwestern boy, and I'm just not about that. I don't need to be a millionaire. I just want to work for myself and have the flexibility to come and go as I want. And I think I've achieved that. I'm in a position where I can just work on the business instead of in the business. And that's been my goal since day one, is to get to this point. So.
Love it. Well, and the humility that, I mean, it shows in your actions, right? To at 35, walk into a job and accept a pay of $10 an hour as a helper.
Right.
Like, that says a lot about your character. But one thing I did want to ask about was, what were some of those core values and those strong morals that you had that you wanted to bring to your own business that maybe were lacking or were at least being neglected at the other company?
Yeah. So, like when I was in install, it was actually a lot less politics. It was just go to work, bust these jobs out, take the units out, put the units in, and you you and your team just kind of managed each other. Yes, really the only stress you had on yourself was to try and get done as soon as possible. Just don't be jerking around and, just get the job done. There's enough work to be done. But then once I got into the service side, because every installer typically moves in, that's a natural progression, is to move into service side of business.
Right.
So when you move over there, then you start realizing what a numbers game it really is. And companies who have that maintenance club membership program, you have a lot of pressure to accumulate more, and you have a certain percentage of customers that you see that you have to convert into these using KPIs. Companies that use KPIs just over the top, and add-ons, like these are all great things, and I use them to some degree, but I just don't push it to that next level. And I think what really got to me the most was when, every week we would come in for training and review our numbers. And so everybody's numbers would be on this sheet that they passed out, and it would, sometimes my name would be in red. It'd just be like, Greg's in the red, he didn't hit his mark, and then all these guys are in the black and some other guys are in the red, and then the next week I'm higher and whatever. But it was really bad when they started using this dry erase board, and all of our names and all of our stats and KPIs and stuff. Um, and I realized you could just be thumbed off the board. They could just like go, "Zoop."
Hmm.
And that's how transient that company started getting. And I just didn't want to be that company anymore. I already knew that they were charging an arm and a leg for systems. A $10,000 system, they're charging no less than 14,000 for, and then everything just kind of goes up from there. And good for them. I mean, if they can get that, that's great. I got to be able to sleep at night knowing, you know, I'm a Midwestern guy. I'm humble, um, and I want to carry those values on. And I think that's what we're doing. So,
Hmm. Love it. So how is it then that you balance that need for running a business, of managing the numbers and knowing where you're at and revenue growth and growth of the business? How is it that you balance that while still making sure that you keep the main thing, which is customer service, treating people right?
right. So when you hire good people, you can train them to be good techs.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's hard to, it's hard to train a mean person to be a nice person, but you can teach them to be good techs. And so if you have these systems in place, which I feel like we have our systems in place, everyone does their install the same way. Everybody does a service call the same way. And then the money will come, like if something's broken, they'll fix it. If they don't, maybe they'll bring up the fact that they want a new system. But I tell my guys, I really want them bringing it up. Like if they want to repair their system, great. If they want to try going in the conversation about having a new system or getting a new system, then I feel like let them bring it up.
Mm.
And I feel like that's really what's uh, set us apart from other companies. And I actually feel like with our reputation around town starting to develop like that, I really feel like some other companies are starting to do that, starting to, do that too. Like they're starting to realize that we are just doing things a little bit differently. And it might just be in my head, but you, so I'm super driven. I'm a very driven person. And so I have these standards set, but I realize as a former service tech, I know that the money will come. I know that capacitors are going to fail. I know that motors are going to fail, and so that money is just going to come. And we set up our maintenance program to be kind of a no-brainer, so that if you got like this $500 or $600 repair, you're going to get 15% off by joining our club membership program, where we come out twice a year and do the preventive maintenance on your system. You get 15% off parts and labor, front of the line priority service, and no dispatch fee call ever, including today's call, in which you have the $75 plus the $600 motor. We can waive that $75, bring your price down to whatever, $525, and we're just out the door for $525. So the customer has just saved money. We've created a new customer. We've wowed them. We've created value. We have a lifetime warranty on our parts, so we can go into that too. And and then the technician, because I'm worried about the customer, the technician, and the company. The technician makes their money. They're bringing in their income. For every club member they sign up, they get a spiff. Like a $20 spiff for every club member. We have just over 1,100 club members now. So club members come and go. Some of them will stay on for years, and they have, and some will just they're kind of transient. They come and go. But I feel like having these standards set in place, and then just letting the guys do their thing, not micromanage them, but just let them be techs. We just want to be the old-fashioned tech that would come out and keep your system up and running. And I think that's what we're doing. I think that's what we're doing now. So,
No, amazing. One of the I like that, you do something different, right? And you do it and you treat the customer number one and you treat them first. I had an old job that I was at, and I remember coming in and it was the passenger elevator industry. And I always say passenger elevator industry because where we're from, there's grain elevators. So people are like, oh, like grain elevators, right? And I'm like, if I just said elevator industry. So I just have to clarify passenger elevator industry. But like, if you were to drop your keys, for example, down the elevator shaft, they would charge something like close to $300 to open them up and grab your keys out. And to the person, I'm like, that's stupid for some unfortunate luck. Why don't we, instead of charging them, why don't we donate $300 to a charity, right? And we rack this up, and now we're doing some goodwill, and people are like, oh, these guys are doing something amazing. But then the boss shot it down because he's like, well, what would the shareholders think? And I'm like, well, that's a stupid way to run a business, because at the end of the day, if you don't have your people and your customers, you're not going to have a business, right? It's customers, it's people, and then it's profits. And you know what? If you focus on your customers and you focus on your people, guess what you're going to have? You're going to have profits, right? And you look at that when you're doing something differently, you're going to get more customers because you wowed them, even though the numbers might not be as high, for a business, because you're doing these extra things, but you're going to get more. So then you actually get more profits in the long run, right? You look at those numbers and weigh that out and just do good.
Right. Our motto at the company is to get and keep customers. And so when people ask, like, what's your company motto or what's your mission statement? Anybody that asks my guys, I just make it nice and simple: get and keep customers. And I tell them, like, the way I explain it to them is like, we're going to meet customers that are not happy with us. So if you think about it, like this is one long war that we're in, and there are going to be many battles along the way. We're going to win a ton of battles, and we're going to lose some battles, but we're going to win the war at the end. So if we've got to give a customer this or this to make them happy, let's do it. You know what I mean? Like, it should be a no-brainer. Let's talk about it, bring it to my attention. I'll go back to the customer and say, hey, this is what we're going to do for you. Or I give the guys, the service techs, the autonomy to do it out in the field too. So
Yep.
I love it.
So how, just out of curiosity, with the service techs and the autonomy, that's obviously relinquishing some of your decision-making control in a business and passing that down to somebody else. And some people hear that and they're just like, they clam up. They're like, I gotta go. What? Right. I gotta give your decisions to somebody else. Walk us through the mindset that you have to be able to do that. And if there's anything that you've done with your techs to be able to allow them to do that.
So we have training every Wednesday, so we're able to communicate, things that are going on, what's working, what's not working, situations, where a customer has gotten upset, and so what did we do about it? And then so people can, the technicians can use those as precedent and say, okay, well, this happened. So like, we were able to give this guy a whole compressor, here. So I'm just going to give this guy a couple pounds of refrigerant, and I'll let Greg know about it, and Greg's going to be fine with it, So, another thing that I like to do is I tell the guys, everybody at my team, like, the more brutally honest you are with me as a technician, the better our relationship. So to me, that means I don't care how bad you screw up. If you put your foot through the ceiling, if you, um, whatever it is, if you gave somebody a couple pounds of refrigerant, um, but the only thing is, I just want to know from you before I hear from the customer. Like, for instance, this one guy was putting some dye into the refrigerant or into the AC, and it just spewed up all over the stucco wall, right? So like this
Oh God,
yellow
no.
this yellow fluorescent spray right over there. Well, he didn't let me know. I had to find out from the customer saying, "Hey, I just wanted to see what you guys are going to do about this." And I'm like, "Huh, I don't really know what you're talking about. Let me call let me call my technician and figure it out." And he was like, "Yeah, it sprayed up there. I tried to hose it off, but it wouldn't come off." I'm like, "Dude, you gotta tell me about this stuff, And that's what I mean. Like, just the more brutally honest you are with me, the better our relationship. So training, communication, encouragement, really encouraging the people. And at some point, like I see it on the HVAC owners groups and these some of these companies that are totally stalling out because they don't want to give up that they want to they'll hire that first person, but they will micromanage the crud out of that person until he leaves. Or they might get 2 or 3 people and then they'll have a big blowout, a big blow up in front of all of them, and a couple of them leave. Now he's back to 1, but autonomy is what all of us want in our job. We're all grown.
Oh, we just lost him randomly.
We lost Greg.
I think that is
there.
that is the very first time that I think that has ever happened live in our show. Oh, there he's back. So
We got him.
We got him back.
Sorry about that.
Hey, no worries. Got excited. But
You're in the middle of a profound thought, so keep going if you
I
remember.
don't know if you remember the thought. I usually lose myself halfway through my own thoughts. So
No, everybody's a grown person, and I think people will stay with you longer if you trust them and give them the autonomy to make decisions on their own, and then back them up and tell them, "I back your play. Whatever you say, you've come to me with this information. I got your back now." So when the customer does call me, it even happened today. He's like, "Hey, I just want to call and let you know this customer was unhappy because the condenser fan motor is $658. And she doesn't think she should pay for it. So I told her this, and I'm like, okay, no problem, man. I got your back." So when she does call in, I'm happy to help out. So,
well, this comment right here, right? You have to have trust that goes both ways. That's literally the epicenter of what you're talking about here, right? And you trust your techs, and your techs and your team trust you to have their back, right? It's a lot easier, and that's like, read this loud and clear, whether you're an owner or you're a tech, you're an employee. That honesty part is what makes this work. Mm-hmm. Because if you're going to be a straight shooter and you're going to be honest about something and upfront, I mean, how can you get mad at somebody if they just tell you the truth of what happened?
Mm-hmm.
Right?
They're trying hard.
Exactly. And they're really trying hard. So what, and that's the other part too, is you're going to have a little bit of latitude on this. Something that I learned from being a dad of a whole 5 weeks, and my kid can't communicate other than scream and yell, is patience, right? And you have to have that patience with your people because they are going to make some mistakes, and so understand that part of it too, right?
Yep, they're going to learn from their mistakes.
Yep, 100%. And as a leader, I mean, you've got to set the example. You got to be vulnerable to be the first one to say, "Hey, I screwed up on this one.
Right.
That's my bad. We didn't teach you this, or we haven't gotten there yet," or whatever the scenario is, right? But be willing to step out as a leader and admit when you've made a mistake, because if you're not doing it, they're not going to do it.
I agree.
Yeah. And that, again, comes back to standards, right? And if you don't set the bare minimum standards for your business of what it is that you can tolerate, I mean, you're always going to get what you tolerate. Right.
Yeah.
And if you haven't gone out and been very, very specific about what your standards are and what it is that you expect from your team and from your business and from yourself, and if you're not inspecting those things, you're never going to get those results.
Yeah, I agree.
I also love what you said about the motto, getting and keeping customers. There was a mentor that we had at one point, which was he had said the genius is not in taking the simple and making it complex. It is taking the complex and making it simple.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what you've done, narrowing down your whole business plan into one simple sentence that
Right.
anyone at your company would be able to reiterate. And the interesting thing with all of this and around the autonomy concepts, and even coming back to the customer service and the customer's number one, the best way to have good customer service is take care of your people.
Right. Yeah, I feel like that's Melissa and I's goal. Is that's our job, is to take care of our people as best as we can, like our own children, and they will take care of my people, of our customers. And the proof is in the pudding. The proof is on Google. If you look at our website, if you go on Google and you type in Fox Family Heating and Air, and you look over on the right side of the page, you're going to see that we have over 400 reviews. I think 2 of those might be.
496.
Thank you.
I see 424 5 stars.
Yeah, so I
Yeah.
mean, there's a lot of good reviews out there. Even on Yelp, I'm maintaining a real 5-star rating, and Yelp's hard to do that on. So
Right, especially because they fake put up 1-star reviews, but that's another topic for another day.
we could go down that rabbit hole.
Yeah, shots fired. You mentioned Melissa, and I know that. I mean, obviously, you know we have the co-founder part, on there. Melissa's the other co-founder, your wife, in founding your business. I mean, I do want to kind of get a little bit into the story of moving out $10 in your pocket, no job, and getting into that path of what was it like to start the business. But before we get into that, I'm kind of gonna go forwards a little bit. You're working with your wife in your business, on your business. And a lot of people would be like, I'd never be able to do that because they're working with their wife, right? I mean, I shared an office with my wife, completely different industries. And that was, had its own inherent challenges. So when somebody's listening to this, they're like, okay, I want to start a business with my family or my wife or get into that. What are some of the things that you guys have done on a personal level and a professional level to help not take work home with you?
Well, work does come home with us, because it is part of owning the business, and there are still people leaving messages with us over the phone, all night. And Melissa's pretty much the only one through our House Call Pro app. Melissa's the only one who can see incoming messages. We're trying to work with them to let other people see them, but anyways, that's how that comes home. So, but the one rule that Melissa and I made, which we've been able to stick to really well, is Melissa says, I'm good at finance and I'm good at, scheduling and running the administrative side. And I said, I'm good at the operations and the training and the marketing side. So you have that, I'll take my side. And when it comes to one or the other, then the final say so goes to Melissa when it comes to admin finance. She definitely bounces ideas off of me, and trust me, I give her my opinion. I have a lot of devil's advocate on my shoulder, like when I'm questioning things that she does, or new policies, or anything at all. I typically come at it from both sides, but really I end up agreeing with her because she's a smart cookie, and thank God she's just a smart, hardworking woman. It makes it really easy to be partners with, and then on my side, she lets me, I do the pricing, I do, all of our standards and our procedures. She just lets me run with that, and the marketing and the branding, for example, our last set of baseball hats we had, like our caps, when she ordered them with white lettering, like this shirt here. Oh, this shirt here.
Yeah, that's reverse it messes with you.
Like this shirt here, great, right? On the blue shirt, right? But I got these black hats, and I just didn't want the white lettering popping out as much, because it kind of took away from the fox that was on there. So I was like, like she'd already bought these hats, and I was like, I don't like that. And that's my that's my side of the business, is the marketing and the branding side. So if you could, next time you order something, just please let me know. Like, at least let me take a look at it, and I'll give my 2 cents, my final approval, really, because that is my side of the business. And so this time around, we got more hats, and she's like, she gave him a blue. She kind of like said, we have these hats with the brim has like it's a black hat, but the brim of it has like a blue, the Fox family blue color on it. And so I was just looking for the lettering with the Fox to match the color of the blue that was in the brim. And they 3 times they couldn't get it. They couldn't get the color to match. And I was just hoping that they were staying patient with me, because that's my brand, and I want it to look a certain way, and I want to protect it. So they went from a dark to a really light, like just a paisley, sassy blue, and I was like, no, no. And then went with a little bit darker blue, and I was like, no, that's not it either. And then a 4th time, we finally nailed the hat, So, but that's Melissa. She accepted that, and she accepted that branding is my thing. That's I've built this brand from day one, and it's my baby. So,
well, in getting the things right, and like in clothing, people that haven't done clothing, it's difficult. I think Evan's wearing one of our shirts, one of our first ones we ordered, and our logo is like down below the nipple. Oh, so that one's the big one, but it's like,
that does need to be
it's
higher.
supposed to be up there, but it's so low. And so like we ordered a bunch of samples, the first one to get them in, and like making sure that they were legit before, we put them all up there. But it's, you want to make sure that it's right. And especially because a lot of people don't put brand continuity together where they have everything all over the place, right? Like, what are do your shirts that you wear or you give away for swag, or that your team wear, does it match what's on your vehicles? And does your vehicles match what's on your website? And does your website match what's on your marketing? And does your marketing match what's on your messaging to your customers? And having all those things talk to one another and making sure that it's on point. I think a lot of people stumble and they miss those parts. And so having that's such a small thing. So that way, when people see the Fox, they instantly think of Fox family.
Right.
But then think of the blue and the orange and the white. And now you create that brand continuity and that repetition, which is a masterful thing to be able to accomplish in business. So also for future reference, make sure Melissa watches specifically the 24-minute mark of the show. So a little bit of goodwill for you there on that one. I thought I had to throw that in there.
And let me just reiterate what a great woman she is. She's
perfect. And the 28-minute and 18-second mark.
Great at home and in the business,
right?
Running the business with.
So let's go backwards a little bit. I mentioned this in obviously the little snippet that we had going out. Moving to California, $10 in your pocket and no job. You touched briefly a little bit on getting into the HVAC. So what was it like? Starting the business. What were some of the growing pains? If you were to actually, this might tie well into the random question. I'm gonna lead you here on this one. So our random question generator, because I looked over and I'm like, random question. So because we have the random question generator, if someone asked to be your apprentice and learn all that you know, what would you teach them?
Dang. That's a tough one. There's a lot to know, man. Okay, so where do we want to go? Where do we want to go, Thaddeus? Do we want to start from when I came from Indiana out to here with $10 in my name, or where?
Well, so if they're apprentice, so there's two things. So like if they're apprentice and learn all that you know, what would you teach them when you're coming out here with $10 and getting to the point of starting the business and running it?
So I guess my number one thing was, which everybody's is, when some people are leaving their company that they currently work for to cold turkey leave and go start their business. Some people are leaving. They're someday leaving their job off duty, they're doing side work, trying to, build up their business. And then some people just straight up work for themselves and somebody else. But I did it where I cut ties completely. I didn't bring any customers over to Fox Family. I just wanted to cut ties, come over here and start with customer number one. So I guess my first bit of advice to that person would be to figure out how you're going to get your first customer. Yes, in California, you have to get your contractor's license, because if you do any work over $500, you're going to get busted if you don't have a contractor's license. You will eventually get caught. There's like these strike force teams that go out there and they're legitimate. They come out there and they'll stage you and then arrest you for working for contracting without a license. So it's super important to get that. Super important to get your insurance, and then start getting your brand. Like, figure out, just little things, like figure out what your company is going to look like in your mind. What does it look like in your mind? Now let's create a logo around that. Hire an artist to design this. Don't just pick something off the internet and then go with it. Hire an artist. It's not going to cost that. Starving artist, and they're going to give you like 9 or 10 examples, and then figure out what you want. That now build your company around that logo. So we were Fox Family because I didn't want to be like, and no offense, I didn't want to be like, D&M Heating and Air, or something like Dave and Mike Heating and Air. I wanted to get my point across, like, who's my demographic? Who am I looking for? Well, we're Foxes, and family is who we're going after. Families. That's my demographic. We want that customer. So figure out who your demographic is. Are you doing commercial? Are you doing industrial? Are you doing residential? And I don't really recommend doing all of those. Like, pick a specialty, do what you're good at. If I've learned anything from trying to jump into solar, that was kind of a big mistake. I lost like $25,000-$30,000 just trying to get into a field that I never even sold one stinking job on, but I tried. I've also tried duct cleaning. Not really my forte. It's a very labor intensive job. I think it's hard to prove that you've done a good job on it. So that's another thing. I spent like, what was that? I think that cost like $15,000 for this whole duct cleaning system, and I think I used it for 2 months, and then it ultimately ended up throwing it away when we moved from our old shop to this one. So, and we just made our last payment on it. So, what's the time on that? Because Melissa's like really happy about that last payment on it. So back to getting, so you've got this down. Stick to being good. Okay, so you're just going to do residential. Now you got to get customer number one, and that's the question I get asked a lot is on my YouTube channel is how do I get my first customers? And so we used lead generation sites. I did try some random dude off of YouTube. That didn't work out. Then I jumped into Home Advisor. Home Advisor worked before it got weird. But Home Advisor worked. It was expensive. Home Advisor, if you don't know, was one of these lead generations where a customer, says they need heat, right? They go online, Home Advisors, on the front page, you click on Home Advisor or Angie's List or whatever, click on Home Advisor, you say, I need heat. Well, us contractors who have signed up with them, we pay for those leads, and that customer will submit their claim. Home Advisor sends that lead out to, at the time, it was like 3 other contractors, me, Joe, and Kevin. So me, Joe, and Kevin get the lead. Now the race is on to who can get to that customer the fastest and wow them so they can come out and do the job that might lead to a repair. So you're paying like, I don't know, it was like, at the time it was like $16 a lead for a service call. And for an install lead, it was like $65. For a lead, you don't even know if it's going to turn into a job or anything. So it's scary. but it was working, and that was generating some calls for me, and I was getting work that way. So then I also tried Thumbtack for a little while, got on Yelp, started paying for some, pay per lead on YouTube, on Yelp. In the meantime, I'm developing my YouTube channel. Like from before I even got my contractor's license, I was doing my YouTube. I was starting my videos, and I never realized how much now, 5 years later, and I never realized how much that was going to help me, because it's my YouTube generator, my YouTube channel is, Evan, I think you know this, is my biggest driver of visits to my website. So it's really helped out my SEO a lot just doing the YouTube videos. So it takes time to get that going, just like it takes time to get that base of customers that you didn't need Thumbtack for, or Home Advisor or Yelp for, because now you're getting referrals. You did a job over at Mrs. Johnson's house, and she told Mrs. Jones. Now Mrs. Jones is calling you, and now your name's starting to get out there. And that's just with one person. And then in the meantime, I'm developing this maintenance club membership program. I know in my head how many club members I need to get before I can hire my next person, because that's on the tip of my mind. So I want to get, how fast can I get out of the field? And how fast can I start working on the business instead of in the business? And so I would think it was like 115 club members I needed to, hire our next person and be able to make it so I didn't have to do any maintenance calls. I could just do service in the summer and winter. I think I got to like 65 before I hired my first guy, and that ended up working. So he had plenty of work. I was fine. We were doing installs together, service together, but I was able to keep him busy throughout the year. So you can kind of see how it starts out as a seed, with just figuring out, what do I want to specialize in? Residential, commercial, industrial. Now figure out what your company is, your demographic, who's your target demographic, because don't be going to be a Craigslist guy and you're trying to get the fancy people up in the hills, that's not going to work. Focus on what demographic you want to be on.
100%. And like that, we have Kijiji is the equivalent of Craigslist in Canada. And then there's a lot of guys like, I do a lot of work on Kijiji. Okay, well, those are usually people that are wanting the lowest price and are wanting it for free. Can you pay me to repair my unit? That's like the homeowner saying, hey, pay me money and you're going to repair my unit. That's basically what they want. Right. One of the things that I wanted to unpack a little bit, I know you mentioned that you tried solar, you tried duct cleaning, and I know a lot of guys, the natural progression is to add in another line of their business. And so they have their HVAC, and then they say, okay, plumbing is what we see that quite a bit. They go into the plumbing world because they tend to complement, a little bit. So if somebody's considering that, what are some things that you would say to look for prior to making that decision, having already tried two different lines?
First of all, I would say I'm never getting into plumbing because I bite my nails way too much. So,
you know what's funny is when I was like 17 or 18, one of my ex-girlfriends always chew her nails. And my mom asked her, she was like, hey, do you know, where were your hands before you washed them last? And she kind of looked at her hands and stopped chewing her nails and put them down and never chewed her nails again after that. I'm like, I don't know where her hands were, but obviously nowhere good. But
I'm 46 and I still bite my nails. There's stuff underneath them right now, and I know it's gross. Anyways, what I have learned from trying other ventures is, because I saw the big company that I worked for, I saw them do it. I saw them get into plumbing. Later, they got into windows after I had left. But I saw them get into plumbing, but it wasn't those guys. It wasn't the owners, the guys who know HVAC, who started their company as an HVAC company. It wasn't him or them starting up plumbing. They hired some guy to come in and start up plumbing for them because that's what that guy knew from the ground up. So I would say, if you're do what you do best, all right? If you already don't know how to be an electrician, then don't add electrical to your your arsenal of what you guys do. Don't be like, I'm Fox Family Heating and Air and Electrical, and just decide you're going to pick up electrical. Or what we did was, like solar. Man, we love installing solar. It's super easy. Like, as HVAC guys, we're not in attics. We're up on rooftops, fresh air. We're putting in solar panels. This is great. We put in a few, like friends and family. Like my house has got 18 panels or something like that. And Colin got some, Keith got some on his roof. So we love installing it. We just couldn't sell it. So that was the thing, was like, we were just spinning our wheels while other companies are selling stuff. We also saw prices coming down lower and lower, and I want to make my margin. So it ultimately came down to, and if anybody else asks me to, add plumbing or add windows, oh, it's really easy. I'm not going to do it. I'm just going to stick with residential heating and air conditioning, even venturing out to commercial and industrial stuff, right? Like, I'd never done commercial before I got into this. So to be like, oh, I'm going to add commercial now. Well, commercial has its own struggles. Like, nobody likes to pay in commercial, right? Like, they'll pay you in 60 days. They've had their cooling going, and everybody's happy in the office. Meanwhile, I don't have the cash for what I did, right? Residential HVAC is a very cash-oriented business. I do the work today. I get paid today, take the money back home. Now I have money to pay my people. In the commercial and like the new construction, working for contractors, subcontracting, you do the work now and you get paid later. And I don't ever want to do that again. So,
yep. Show me the money.
Right.
Well, and it comes back to what you said in terms of, what is it that you need to decide on right away when you're starting your business? What business am I in? Right. And knowing that to a T and just sticking to it. Right. When you look at Apple, how long did it take before they introduced a second product other than their Macintosh computer? Right. They didn't create a second product until they came out with the iPhone, which is how many decades later. Right. So,
right.
New revamps to the computer, but they stayed within computing. That was their one thing. And then it became more of a people business and a company culture. And we want to prey on the culture, not just the product itself. And that's where they've evolved and continued to grow from there. But knowing what it is that your true product is, and then knowing who it is that you are serving, right? You are serving residential homeowners. Great. Mm-hmm. Now you can add in other services once you've nailed down what it is that you are best in the world at.
Yeah. Not only am I focused on residential, but I'm focused on age 40 to 65 and over, middle class families. Like, that's how you really got to get targeted down to who you really want to be that customer. So, like, when I advertise on the radio now, I advertise on TV, but I don't put my commercials don't go on Yo MTV rap station. It goes on, it goes on the Breeze channel that's playing Celine Dion, during the day, because I'm looking for my message to get to the 40 and over, single mom, family member who listens to that kind of stuff during the day, because that kind of a person, I'm sorry to say, but typically has a little bit higher education level, a little bit higher income level. And I mean, no offense to anybody when I say that, but to waste my money putting it on, rap station or honestly, even like some of the classic rock stations and the heavy rock stations, that's not my demographic. So if it's yours, great, go for it.
Well, that's called your ideal customer avatar, or your ICA for short. And in knowing what your ideal customer avatar is super smart in business. It's like, when I jump on a call with somebody to talk about their marketing, I mean, it's not the first question that I ask them. Usually the first question I ask them is, why are you in business? For yourself. But along the lines, I ask them, do you know who your ideal customer is? Paint that picture for me. What's their age? What area do they live in? What's their work life like? Where are they working? How many cars do they have? Do they have kids? Are they married? And the more and that doesn't necessarily mean if you go through this super long process and you get this super ideal customer avatar that's super defined, that doesn't necessarily mean that you always have to work with just that ICA, but you now can craft your messaging and your marketing behind that to attract more of those people. And it's just a smart thing to know and do in business. So if you do not have your ICA, get one.
Well, and a point that I really want to attribute to you, Greg, is that your ICA is not identified by what you feel like they are. Because I've seen the spreadsheets. We've gone through them. I've gone through them with Gary. We've looked at mappings of all of Sacramento and where you're doing the most work. The entire spreadsheet is laid out by age demographic every 5 years. Boom, 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 boom. What percentage, down to the 10th of a percentile, is the work being done in? So these demographics are not, it's not guesswork. It is factual. It is actual analytics that are boiled down to say, this is who we want to be in front of. This is where we're going to spend our time. We need to find as many different platforms and mechanisms that are in front of this age demographic. And that's where you're spending your money.
Yep. It's
information-based decision making, which is, the most intelligent decision making you can make, really.
That's how my brain works.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Give me the facts. I make my decisions off the facts.
Mm-hmm.
So with that, then I want to spin into your YouTube channel, because in the beginning, like you said, it was something that wasn't really producing anything for you in terms of results, but you stuck with it. And to date, here are some numbers for you, because I'm sure I don't even know if you know these exact numbers now. 31,000 subscribers now, which I'm sure you know that one, because that one's right on your YouTube channel. There has been 4.178 million views all time of your channel, 314,000 hours of watch time.
Nice.
Since you started that YouTube channel. And that number's continue to increase every month. It's amazing to see the growth of it. You're adding 1,200 subscribers a month now, which is exciting. Walk us through the mentality of why you wanted to start that YouTube channel, who the YouTube channel was really meant for, because you do have a variety of videos that you put out there, and why you feel like that's really impacted your website and SEO and the long game mentality of running it.
Yeah, so that YouTube channel, I guess ultimately when I was in transition between working for someone else and working in my business, I was starting to look up ideas, like company owners, small business ownership. So just like the apprentice that we were just talking to, earlier, and giving them advice, I was just looking for advice from these people. So I stumbled across a few channels that I really liked, those people's personalities, for one reason or another. And so following them, and I was like, gosh, you know what? I'm super nerdy. I could totally do this. My first video was literally sitting right here at this desktop. My first video, I think I've taken it down since, because I redid it. But my first video was talking about the sequence of operation for a furnace, and why you get that smell every season, every winter season when you turn your system on for the first time. So I just, when I, when I was in middle school, I was like the MC of the talent show, right? And I just my microphone introducing people. Later on, when I was in the restaurant business, I was a DJ at some of these clubs, so spinning records, getting people on the dance floor, and doing stuff like that. Even hosting some booty shaker, contests in dance clubs. So being on a microphone has never been an issue for me. And I was just like, you know what? I see these guys do it. I feel like I can do it. And I'm never going to get as many subscribers as Ralph Wolf. I'm never going to get as many subscribers as Zach Ciota. I'm not gonna get as many as you know, Steve Lavamanier, like those guys are brilliant,
Hmm.
and they're funny, they're entertaining. Um, Zach was probably one of my favorite guys, shout out to Zach Ciota, because I just liked his personality and his sort of small town, sort of like where I came from. Sort of, he had a family. He talks about his family. So that's why I started it up. I started it up because I wanted to I wanted to be on YouTube. I wanted to talk to who it's for. It's for, I would say, a third of my channel is for technicians. A third of my channel is for customers, and then the other third is for like business owners. So, and I would probably say that about a third of my videos is for customers, third of my videos for techs, and third for owners. And so that's sort of how I divided my channel up. Um, and the way it's impacted my business, I never knew how it was. I was listening to I think it was Ralph Wolf who had mentioned how how much his channel had impacted his business. So I'm within my first couple of years, right? I think I'm still within 1,000 subscribers, maybe just starting to monetize, Um, whereas those guys had, the numbers where I'm at now, like they were at like 30,000, $45,000, subscribers. Um, and so when, I just kind of kept doing it, and because I thought this was going to help my business, getting people to call me. Once I did like a couple videos where people really started calling us, like I did a whole house fan video, quite cool whole house fan video. It just like took off, and so like every spring we just started getting a ton of calls about whole house fans. I want to put a whole house fan on my house. I saw your video, you know. And so it's become this thing now where like even Sasha at the office, and she comes over and like, hey, we got another phone call from this guy today in South Florida who really wanted to speak to Greg, the guy on the YouTube channel, because he's this and that, and he's starting up a business, and he would like to ask some questions. And so like that never gets old to me. I definitely try to stay humble about it all and everything. But that's how it's impacted. It has brought so many people from all around the world to Fox Family. And it's not just Rancho Cordova, Sacramento area, east side of Sacramento. It's people, like we get phone calls probably every day from way outside of California. It's like, no, we don't we don't service Atlanta, Georgia. So,
but they're watching it, and you drop knowledge, and like that's the thing that's so cool about when you start something. Like, you talk about your very first video. I actually found Evan and I's first videos from well over a year ago. That I mean, maybe we'll post them some day down the future. But it was like our first ever videos that we never even did shit with them. We just recorded them and then never posted them. But you got to start somewhere, with it and getting that knowledge out there, and then it just cascades and it builds, and you take that leap of faith. So,
right, yeah, my like just for instance, like my thumbnails, my graphics, my thumbnails on my videos were nothing at first. It was just a picture of me going.
Because it's whatever frame they decided to choose for you.
Whatever they chose for me. And then I'd start putting lettering on there, and then I started figuring out, thumbnails, start watching videos of how to, get more views on my video and get really into it. And there are times that I get really into it, and Evan knows. I mean, like I'm constantly uploading videos to right now where I'm just sort of burnt out on doing videos, and I'm really into summer. I'm really into working, on my company right now. I'm really upset about the equipment shortage. So I'm just sort of jaded when it comes to that. I don't know. I'm just not into making videos right now, but we've talked about it. I'm consistently uploading to my blog, as long as I'm being consistent to the website, then we're still going to be moving forward. So,
and it's tough to always be on camera. Like, not people don't talk about, that part of things. And like, I was recording videos. I mean, I took a pause because I had a baby, but like got back into it in scheduling, my videos for next week. But it's a lot of work, And Evan, I think you and I were chatting about this earlier in the week too, is that like, the idea of just getting on camera with a specific topic and talking about it really didn't move the needle for you. And that's a real thing. Like sometimes when you're doing something, it's not necessarily the most enjoyable, and it's okay to take a pause and a step back, especially in the summertime, and appreciate those finer things in life, to be able to enjoy, with your family, for example.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to quickly redo my random question because I feel I butchered it pretty hardcore, because I wanted to lead it into an answer, and I probably shouldn't have led it into an answer. So the random question generator: what website or app has completely changed your life for better or for worse?
Regarding work?
Anything. Your answer to do whatever you want with. I'm not going to lead you on this one.
Probably my favorite website / app is Canva. I've been able to do a lot of graphics for my YouTube channel through Canva. I've even gotten to the point where I've my last few videos were like on compressor troubleshooting and condenser fan troubleshooting, and I was really able to make some great graphics through there. And I like doing stuff like that. I kind of like doing that visuals stuff, and just I like teaching. And so in Canva, the more you practice with it, just like a Photoshop or something like that, the more you practice with it, the better you're going to get. And I feel like I've come leaps and bounds with my graphics on Canva.
Yeah, Canva is phenomenal. We actually use it quite frequently in our business. In fact, that's how we made this stream. That's how we made the other part. When you see the beginning of the show, with like the snippets and the thumbnails and all that. But I'm going to do something. I don't even know what you get from this, but this is me in our Canva link. Apparently there's a referral program. I quickly Google it, see if they had an affiliate. So if you do want Canva, it's actually really cheap and really affordable. It's like $15 a month, right, to get the premium photos. And it's better than Shutterfly or Shutterstock or whatever it's called. With some of their database, pulls a lot of the same photos, and then you can upload custom fonts to it. Actually, I really like Canva. So that is canva.com/join/VCD-FWF-RNQ. I'll put that in the show notes for later.
I think just to add on to Canva, I don't know if it was you, Evan, or Emily that was working with me before, but was saying the original pictures that we are using instead of like the templates that they use, they kind of give you some, like there's that HVAC guy who's sitting next to the condenser. He's got his yellow hard hat on. He's like got his wrench, and he's like, every HVAC technician just cringes like, that's not who does that? Who's that guy? Or the guy who's like fixing the mini split and he's like looking into it and he's got his blue coveralls on, but when you put real pictures from your company, and then you can kind of adjust them from there, or put some font in there and stuff like that, and then apply them to your website. It seems like Google likes that a little bit better, huh?
Yep. Well, Google has moved to user experience, right? And if I come to your website as a potential customer and I see nothing but stock photos and it doesn't look like you're a legit company, I'm leaving your website. And that's the thing that Google doesn't like.
Yeah.
Right? They want to make sure that they're providing a search result that is in favor of what the customer is looking for. Right? And they're a people-pleasing, customer service-based business as well.
And let's be honest, the guy looking into a mini split that has no dirt underneath his fingernails whatsoever, and no spray foam stuck on his hands, like, he's not a tech, Right. I mean, heck, I spray foamed a little crack in my garage, and I came out of it and I was wearing it everywhere. So
right.
You can't get this shit off for days. But
my favorite was it was a woman that was fixing her car, and she had like the tire iron
Right.
under the hood. I was like, what are you doing with that?
Right.
Oh man.
And so that user experience is that's not good. I mean, I
That's
think
not
when you
good.
can you can use a tool like Canva to publish, like to really create some good content for your website, which is, and I think that's how it's helped me out a lot. So
Well, and the easiest thing too, if somebody's listening to this and they're like, oh, I got stock photos on my website, fuck. No, don't worry about it. What you do, take a ton of photos. Have your techs take a photo of every single job that they're doing. Hey, take a selfie of them working on something, right? It doesn't have to be professionally done photos of your team and you guys doing the work. I always Jason Julian does a phenomenal job of this in his business. He takes a ton of photos all the time, of everything, and it just works, right? Because he's taking all those photos of everything. So since I did a shameless plug of our Canva link, I'm going to shameless plug our guests, because our guests never shamelessly plug themselves. So to find Greg, you can find him Fox Family HVAC or Fox Family HVAC, depending on what part of the world you're from. .com. foxfamilyhvac.com/Greg's-blog is his blog. If you want to find them on Facebook, again, I'll put all these in the show notes for those that are listening, or if I'm talking too fast, they'll be there. Don't worry. Facebook.com/Fox Family Heating Air Conditioning. And of course, the YouTube channel that we talked about, youtube.com/C/Fox Family Heating and Air Conditioning. Those will be there. Just click them at the bottom of the show notes for when you're watching this on the team replay.
Awesome. So we got one last question for you, Greg. It's our favorite question. And that is, what is one question you wish people would ask you more, but they don't?
Oh man, that's a tough one.
Save the best questions for last.
My brain was already starting to shut down.
You're like, shameless plug. These guys are done. We'll wrap it up. They'll say goodbye.
I mean, oh gosh, what was the question again? Say it again.
What's one question you wish people would ask you more, but they don't?
See, I'm so humble. I'm like, I don't want, I don't need people to ask me questions.
Right. But even when you're humble and you've got a lot of knowledge to share, and they'll ask you some pretty basic questions, right? Like, oh, what's your revenue and how are your staffing and your training? And there's common questions that constantly come up, right?
Yeah.
But sometimes there's just one topic that you're just super passionate about that no one ever seems to ask. So we want to make sure we talk about it.
And we did talk about it. And, there's a couple things. There's actually one more thing I would really like to bring up too. But the thing that I'm passionate about is growing my business. And so to me, it's everything. I want to sell something someday. Not now, not even soon, but 20 years from now. I want to be able to build something up and sell it for millions of bucks and retire. That's kind of all of our goal. But there's a lot of small businesses out there who don't know how to get that start, how to start that process of building your company up. And there's some really good books out there. But at the same time, what we were talking about earlier is like empowering your people, getting these systems in place. How do you want an install done? How do you want a service call done? And through that autonomy and that empowerment that we were talking about, that communication and trusting that person's going to do the right thing out there. Not enough people can do that. So knowing how to do that is probably what a lot of people would like to know, but they don't ask me.
I love it.
Yeah. I was thinking of something I could add to the show. And it's something that I look at every day when I'm at work. Maybe not every day, but when I need a reminder, I think about these 6 things that mentally strong people do. And and the one I think is key, and it's they move on. They don't waste time feeling sorry for themselves. So, and the prime example of that is I just recently had a guy put in his 2 weeks notice because he doesn't like working in attics, and I get it, like we put a lot of time into training him and getting him to the point now where he can actually run service calls and fix equipment. And this is a couple years later, so we put a lot of money and time and effort into him. But you know what? I'm over it, and I'm moving on to the next thing. So I just don't waste time on things feeling sorry for myself. They embrace change. They welcome challenges. They stay happy. They don't waste energy on things that they can't control. They're kind and fair and unafraid to speak up. They're willing to take calculated risks, which I really feel like I'm definitely open for, definitely willing to put myself out there. We've talked about that. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. And then this one's a good one. They celebrate other people's success. They don't resent that success. So, if you, I think for business owners, if you're afraid of teaching your people everything because they might know everything, like, well, what if you don't teach them everything and they continue working for you? Like that's I think I can't remember. It was one of the rich people that said that, but it's like if you teach them and they leave you, now what? You're like, well, if you don't teach them and they stay with you,
Now what?
right? So that's why you got to celebrate other people's success. If they learn,
Yeah.
if they move on, and they go on to grow into their own company, you should be proud of that because you
Yep.
helped with that. So
And pat them on the back and be a cheerleader the whole way. Because
Well,
when you pat them on the back and you sorry, I'm gonna.
No, go ahead.
We both. That's the tough part when there's a bunch of people on the show. So we always want to chat. When you pat them on the back and you cheerlead them the whole way, they know that you're their biggest fan and that you have their back and that they're that you're in their corner. And realistically, they can ask you questions and they can go to you for help. And I know we touched on this briefly before the show, and I wish we had time to get into it, but we're running up against our time. Is that whole mental health component about everything, right? Like, have somebody that you can that can applaud you along the way versus beat you down, and it goes a lot further.
100%. Well, and what I was going to say was, when we had Tersh Blissett on the show, gosh, it felt like ages ago now, but it probably wasn't that long ago. He talked about a tech that he had in his office that wanted to start his own business. And so he let him into the office and said, well, this is what it takes to run the business, and just showed him everything. Well, by the end of it, he didn't want to run a business anymore.
Right.
Right. And is one of his top employees now, right? And so if he would have pulled away from that and withdrawn from that, that tech would have left. And then he would have gone out, would have failed, maybe would have been a success, but it would have been a struggle at the very least, because he wouldn't have been happy because it wasn't in alignment with what he truly wanted, what his core values were.
Yep.
Right? But by being a leader, a true leader, Tersh was able to say, this is what it takes. This is what it looks like. These are the things you need to pay attention to. And he said, that's not me.
Yep. Well, you look at like the E-Myth, right? And they talk in just in general. I mean, a lot of guys, a lot of techs, and especially in the trades, they're like, I can do it way better than the business owner can. I'm going to start my own business.
Yep.
And then they go out there and they realize, shit, it's a ton of work. And, either the business flops or they end up, buying themselves a job where they would have been probably happier working with that person. And so I think a lot of people can take Tersh's idea and just say, hey guys, I'll be transparent. I'll cheerlead you. I'll be in your corner 100% of the way, but here's what it takes. And be transparent, and it'll open up the eyes to a lot of people. And then you might not get those dare I say, chucks in the truck.
Yeah. And I feel like there's probably a few guys at my shop who probably could go out there and run their own jobs, but I think they like their free time, and I think they like, they have young children, and my kids are out of the house, so my kids out of the house, so they could, and they're great leaders, But I just don't think they want to. Like, I think they've got it made. They've got it. They work for an employer who really takes good care of them. I mean, I would literally bend over backwards for these guys. I bought like 14 tickets to the 49ers Colts game coming up here in October. So, just things like that. If you think you're going to move on, there's a lot of stuff. I'm sure you guys got some episodes about that. So,
right, and like there's even some episodes that we probably could have dove into that even more on, right? Just what it takes to run a business. I mean, that's a completely another hour episode, in and of itself. And so, speaking of the hour episode, I'm going to be the one who rudely says we're going to thank you so much for your time. We might even do an after hours in order to be able to get part of the after hours. I'll join our Facebook group. Where we're going to eventually get those out there. So I'll be the first to say thank you, Greg, for taking the time out of your busy schedule to sit and chat with two crazy Canadians as they drink some whiskey. Canadian whiskey at that for myself. I almost bought some Oregon whiskey today, but I was debating between the two bottles and I went with the Canadian whiskey. Although the Oregon whiskey was Canadian whiskey, but I digress.
Did you need the ice cube?
I did need the ice cube, yes.
Okay, got it.
I find that solidly in the $40 bottle range, you need like 1 or 2 ice cubes. The one I have beside me back there, you actually can't see it. That's a neat whiskey. I find that you got to spend like $70 to $100 Canadian, and like for you guys, that's like a $30 to $40 bottle down there, depending on where you're at in the States. Once you factor in the conversion of the Canadian dollar on that, but. It's actually a pretty good whiskey. So 1 or 2 ice cubes. I didn't need to water it down, which I've had some in the past where I'm like, let me dump a bunch of water into this to dilute the taste of it. You never know. It's always a new bottle. It's always a new adventure. So
good old Alberta Premium.
That was a horrible experience. Eventually we'll get a whiskey sponsor for the show. But anyways, thanks again, Greg, for taking the time to chat with us. Anybody who wants to reach out to Greg, the notes are in the bottom of the show. So until next time, cheers.
Cheers.
Hey, thanks for watching another episode of HVAC Success Secrets Revealed. Before you go, 2 quick things. 1, join our Facebook group, facebook.com/groups/HVAC Revealed. The other thing, if you took one tiny little bit of information out of this that was a golden nugget for you in your business, all we ask is for you to introduce this show to one person on your contacts list. That's it. That's all. One person. So they too can unleash the ultimate HVAC business. Until next time, cheers.